Hey Reluctant Preppers, this is showing you just how easy it is to purchase silver without paying any premium over spot price. You just go to sdbullion.com/rp, scroll down and enter the special code to get silver without any premium, and they'll mail it to your mailbox, discreetly packaged. Inside you'll find a beautiful 10-ounce bar of fine silver, and you are able to purchase that and have it and add it to your stack and your collection without paying any premium. And you're supporting Reluctant Preppers along the way. Thanks.
As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We have a distinguished returning guest tonight, Bill Murphy, a co-founder of GATA.org, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, and the editor of LeMetropoleCafe.com, with proprietary commentary on the gold and silver markets, is here with us again on Reluctant Preppers. Bill, thank you for joining us.
Great to be back, Donegan, and congrats to you for doing such a good job in all your work.
Well, we keep trying to fulfill our mission of helping people to be aware and prepared, and there's certainly been a lot of excitement going on in various aspects of the financial system. A lot of those things we've heard people describing them as part of the crackup boom as predicted by the Austrian School of Economics. And Gregory Mannarino from TradersChoice.net describes the markets as being in a melt-up mode. Rob Kirby questions why are none of the U.S. bond auctions allowed to fail, and on. What is going on with these markets? And certainly we've seen this meteoric rise, especially this year, of the cryptocurrencies, most notably Bitcoin. In contrast to that, we've seen a 6-year doldrums, it appears, except for a brief up year about a year ago in physical gold and silver. Could you give us your perspective of what is going on with these markets, what's normal and abnormal about them, and what does that tell prudent people who want to make sure that they're positioned responsibly?
Well, it's a mouthful you got there. Well, one, as everyone knows, especially even today with the Dow was up 388 at one point, the stock market has gone straight up without any corrections. And that's occurred ever since Trump got elected. And, of course, the beginning of the year, I was the Jeff Berwick's conference in Acapulco, and they were ecstatic. The crypto people were there. There's a lot of them attending because it reached the same price of gold as $12.40. And, of course, now everyone knows it's gone past $10,000. So you've got something that's a mania. I'm not saying it's not going to last, but it's second only to tulip mania in terms of the return. It's just astounding and good for the people that got involved. You've got every other asset in the world moving up in terms of real estate and art in the United States, and yet with all that money going in the system that's fueled this kind of move, as spoken about by your prior guest, the two assets that ought to be flying now are gold and silver. I mean, silver is one-third the price it was 38 years ago. It's 37 years ago. It's ridiculous. And from this monetary aspect, and of course, the same is true for gold, that it's been in a 6-year plus bear market, and here we are, some $700, $600 less than it was back then, with all these other assets flying. So what's happening is many of the people that have been in the gold and silver markets can't take it anymore. The opportunity costs have been hard. We're going no place, and the Gold Cartel, and that's what I'll get into, keeps attacking to keep it down. And it's causing people to be frustrated and quit. And this is what happens when you get markets like this that the average person can't take anymore. And where I come from is involved in GATA. This is typical. I mean, what they're doing is every asset's going nuts, and they want to say the establishment behind it and so on, that it's all normal, it's all great. And look, there's no real inflation. There's nothing really wrong about all this money going into the system. Look at the price of gold, which is the barometer of U.S. financial market health. And that was according to, a Paul Volcker, for example. And it's created the toughest situation I've ever seen in 20 years doing this, because, people like myself were bullish on gold last year and the year before in silver, and I was looking forward to take out 21 and explode. And instead, we've got the reverse. And so it's made it very difficult. At the same time, if you go back throughout history, I mean, there's gold and silver have never been better buys at the present levels they are, and cheaper, and so on. So I can just suggest for the people that are getting discouraged, and it's only natural to hang in there, because when this turns, it's going to be dramatic. And I'll finish up. I don't think we're going to have a normal bull market in gold and silver anymore. We're going to explode. We stay here till we explode, and then watch out. It's going to go bonkers.
Yeah, I wanted to focus on 2 points that you mentioned in passing. One was you mentioned that silver is currently trading at 1/3 of its price from decades ago. And we had Lynette Zhang, the chief market analyst from ITM Trading, on a couple of times, and she's talked about the backdrop for that is even worse than what, as you described, because the measuring units that we're talking about there is the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar's value, as people know through inflation, has continued to erode significantly through that period of time. So are we talking about it's 1/3 the price of what it was 30-some years ago, and that was when the dollar was worth something?
Well, that's a very good point, and well worth bringing up. And all I know is there's a lot of smart people out there like Eric Sprott that thought that silver would be taking off right now, and some others. And these are, for somehow, some way, the Gold Cartel in terms of silver, J.P. Morgan, has been able to keep silver in the dumpster. And all I know from markets, rigged or not, that the longer something is completely out of whack from the smartest people I know, and the longer it doesn't do what, again, some very smart people think it ought to be doing, the bigger the move when it occurs. And that's why I firmly believe that once we get through 21, it seems to be taking forever, it will trade a little bit like Bitcoin does on the upside. It may not be quite the same move, but you're going to get the same frenetic action. And it's the good thing about what the cryptocurrencies have done. So what if silver goes from 17 to 37 overnight? I mean, so what? I mean, that's what the cryptocurrencies are doing. So I think we're going into a whole new arena in terms of how the gold and silver markets trade in the years to come.
Now, you mentioned also earlier about the powers that be that are able to manage to keep silver and gold suppressed. That's one of the missions and focuses of GATA.org is to examine that and to try to keep those guys honest. So what kinds of things are you seeing these days, and what ways are you able to be sort of the watchdog for the rest of us in that?
Well, my colleague Chris Powell, God bless him, is over in London right now doing what he can. And when we were both in New Orleans a while back and we sent stuff to the press, unfortunately, after this will be my 20th year, you're looking at a Harvey Weinstein sort of thing, which, of course, was a horrible show and a horrible thing in terms of sexual harassment and what he did personally. And now, of course, it's coming out about other people. But that was going on. That scandal took 20, 30, 40 years to develop. My sister Chris was interviewed in a hotel room when she started modeling in New York by Harvey Weinstein. She had to put on a teddy and high-heeled shoes, and she's got scared half to death and ran out of there. I know this from my own sister. The point I'm trying to make here is this was going on over and over again. A lot of people knew about it, but everyone's come back and said the same thing. When you go against these people, you're going against the rich and powerful. And that is nothing compared to what GATA and the people that follow what we do are up against in exposing this scandal. I was with the Wall Street Journal, did a front page story on the Fed. I spent a month and a half, 7 emails, introduced them all kind of people. The story gets done, it's on front page, and the girl reporter, lovely girl, came back to me, oh, no, she said, the only thing that didn't get in is GATA. They ran out of room. Well, that's been happening for 20 years. And I think that, the evidence keeps mounting of what the Gold Cartel is doing, and it won't be a big deal in terms of the suppression until this blows up, until you have a Harvey Weinstein outing, and look what else is happening to all these other people now. Until it gets to that point, that's when everything changes.
Now, you mentioned that nothing seems to be able to stop the advance of the stock market, for example, and and Bitcoin and so on. Again, Lynette Zhang was talking about the stress tests that were done about value at risk and so on against some of these leverage ratios of the derivatives that some of these large banks, too big to fail banks have, and she was saying that some of them have like 3.5% to 4% if their investments go against them by that amount, that basically they're so leveraged that they're insolvent at that point. So there seems to be this huge systemic deck that's stacked in the direction of it can't let the markets go down. But meanwhile, like David Morgan is talking about, perhaps from now to the end of the year we might see a further slide in the precious metals, although he's not predicting that it would go below the previous lows of 14s and 15s that we saw in the last year or two, but which would keep his claim of a bull market intact. Do you have an outlook for the precious metals over either the rest of this year or into 2018 that you see the most realistic? I know nobody has a crystal ball, but do you have what you believe to be the most realistic scenario?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of people a lot smarter than me. They're never right about calling bullish stuff for gold and silver. Never. Whenever they say it's bullish, it's wrong. And these are very, very smart people. That's how effective this gold cartel has been. And I really think, from my thinking, is that you're getting a lot of pressures that will be building up, and that's why we're going to get an explosion at some point. Anybody predicting a date so far has been wrong. It's just impossible. And what they're doing in terms of that issue is a very important one, systemic risk. That's the reason there's been no corrections. They're petrified. It doesn't matter what your politics are, but they're petrified of Donald Trump, what he could say, what he could do. And guess what? And I said this the day after the election. Doesn't matter what he says, what he does, what happens, what's passed, what isn't. Nothing corrects. Nothing is ever seen as wrong. So now it's been going this way for a year, and people are conditioned. It doesn't matter anymore what he says or does. Again, it doesn't matter whether you're for him or against him. The markets don't even pay attention anymore. They're just the plunge protection team and other forces are behind it, and any dips are bought, and they keep going. And now the technicals are out of control with the shorts getting slaughtered. And you're right, and she's right. If we ever did get some sort of significant correction now, it could create some real problems, and that's what they're terrified of.
If people want to participate in the opportunities of growth and also protect themselves against when this bubble bursts, as Gregory Mannarino from TradersChoice.net describes it, what kind of approaches might they consider?
Well, again, I'm prejudiced. Obviously, physical and gold, which are so cheap now, are the place to be. And it's interesting enough, what they've done to the shares have just been terrible. It shows the lack of interest in the sector. As these other assets have gone, people have given up on them. Well, they're just going to go nuts at some point.
You're talking about shares of gold and precious metal miners?
Metal shares, yes.
Miners, okay.
Yes, the miner shares, yes.
Okay.
And there's some really good ones out there. And a lot of them, they're giving it away for next to nothing. It's really extraordinary, and it's a tremendous opportunity is in front of everybody. It's just the opportunity cost right now is tough for some people to take.
Well, Bill, people that are in your corner and knowing that you're in our corner are watching for the truth, and they're watching for the truth to eventually come out. They believe that it's not wise to build your house on sand, but on the rocks. And so they want to make sure that they're positioning themselves, not on the frothy bubble of an overheated economy. So we always appreciate your perspectives here. Before we let you go, could you let our people know where they can find out more of your work and where they can get more of those perspectives of you and your partners at gada.org?
Sure. They can go to gada.org and sign up for Chris Powell, my colleague's free list. He does a great job. And I'm at www.lametropolecafe.com. People can sign up for a 2-week free trial. And we're going to continue to fight the good fight. And it'll be like Bernie Madoff or the Enron scandals. This is going to blow up, and gold and silver are going to go bonkers. But the timing of it is proven to be difficult, and we just don't know when that's going to come. It'll probably be when we least expect it.
There's that slogan, I'd rather be 7 years early than 1 day late. You can change the numbers around however you want, but the point is that in order to position yourself to avoid catastrophic loss, you can't have all your assets in the system. You've got to have some of them in something that has real intrinsic value. So,
well, if I may, done again, the Titanic example is perfect in the sense that, boy, you couldn't have a better party, a bigger ship, greater time, everything was looking great, and in a couple hours, everything changed. And that's what's going to happen here for the people that, unfortunately, that were on that ship and went down, and that's what's going to happen in the financial arena for people that aren't aware of the iceberg that's coming.
Well, that's a good image to leave it with. I think we'll use that as the title. And always, as always, I just appreciate you fighting the good fight, Bill, you and Chris Powell and the others. So if you will just promise to return and join us again here on Reluctant Preppers, we'll continue to ask you to help us and our viewers to keep aware and prepared. It's
my pleasure, Don, again, and we're going to fight the good fight. You can count on that.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.